We should have episode numbers. We'll call it the June 25th, 2021 version of the Professionally Evil Lunch and Learn series. I will go ahead and kick off the introductions. My name is Nathan Sweaney. I'm one of the principal security consultants here at Secure Ideas. I'm based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I've been doing this kind of stuff for a while. I've been with Secure Ideas for a little over 8 years, and yeah, that's me. And today we have the Nathan, I like your new PC in the background there. Yeah, exactly. Isn't that nice? That's Secure Ideas goes over the top to provide us with the latest equipment to do our testing. And so that's my new Macintosh Plus. I couldn't quite afford the M1, so we got the Plus.
The Plus.
Speaking of which, one of the owners of Secure Ideas and CIO, right? I always forget CIO or CTO. Yes, Jason Gillam.
It is. So yeah, thanks for that. Yep. I'm the CIO. I guess also, I don't know if that's supposed to be / principal or whatever, but I usually describe myself as a pretty nerdy CIO. So I still get my hands dirty once in a while, writing code or fixing the website or doing whatever. But I've been with Secure Ideas for just under 8 years. So Nathan has actually been with Secure Ideas a little bit longer. So
I think other than Kevin and Denise, I think yeah, because everybody else has left. There were a couple of guys other when I started, but they've left since then. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, Travis, one of our newer guys, which it's been almost a year now, isn't it, Travis?
Yeah, it's getting close to a year actually.
All right, go ahead. Tell us who you are.
So I am with Secure Ideas. I'm one of the senior security consultants. Like we said there, been roughly about a year almost working here, but I've done other things throughout the industry, SOC, and one of my favorites was embedded testing for product security. That was a fun gig. And then we also had, I also spent some time as a developer as well. So I used to help write medical software for blood centers. That was a pretty fun job too, and did some DBA work as well. So that's kind of my background. Yeah,
I didn't know you had the developer stuff.
Yeah, I used to do Microsoft and MySQL DBA stuff.
Okay. I don't think I knew that either.
They do not read your resume when you submit one.
Oh, it looks technical enough.
You know. So. All right. Well, so today we've got a list of topics we're going to throw out there, stuff that's in the news. If you guys have, anybody that's watching, if you've got questions about current events or any news articles or anything that you've seen that you want to hear us rant about, throw it out there. Sometimes we get some good questions from the audience. But the first one, let me pull up my list here. The first one that I wanted to bring up is the Amazon Sidewalk. There's been all kinds of rumbling about this. That is not the link that I want to provide.
Yeah.
My copy paste is failing me here.
And the EFF posted that one. So that was actually, I always like their breakdowns on things, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I pulled this out. I've seen so many articles on Facebook, like from friends. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. I've got one of those guys that he's part of our homeschool co-op, and he is the is it FANG? Is that what they call Facebook, Apple?
Yeah.
Amazon, Netflix, Google. Like, yeah, it's he's got he bought an Android phone that's completely de-Googlified, and it has no services where anybody can track him. He turns off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth everywhere unless he needs it.
He's eagerly waiting for the Librem to take off.
I have no idea what that is.
Librem and the
yeah,
the Linux-based smartphones.
Yeah. I mean, that's this guy. He's he texts me all the time about how privacy is, being, and I agree with him most of the time, but I'm also a little bit more on the all right, let's be realistic. But he's the first person I heard about Amazon Sidewalk from. When did they announce it? Do you guys remember? It was 6 or 8 months ago, I think, when they first talked about it.
This is a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of said
they were very vague about it.
That's the problem.
Yep. They did a really PR campaign launch with it. It scared people, I think, is what it did, and
Yeah.
caused a lot of controversy.
I think in essence it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too.
But I mean, let's face it, this is version 1. So,
yeah, that is literally highlighted in that article.
Yeah.
Nathan, did you throw that out into the public chat? Yeah.
I put it in there. I picked
Okay.
this article because
Yeah.
it is fairly reasonable and it covers the concerns and.
Well, here's my main issue with it isn't the fact that the technology is there. The main issue is that it's version 1 of something that is not required. So to use the technology, it's an enhancement. It's not a requirement.
Yeah.
And it opens up a potential path into your network. I know that there are controls in place or whatever, and even that's a little bit vague exactly what they're doing there. But it's kind of like the whole, don't open up more surface than you really need to fulfill your business requirements. Like that's basically what we always tell people that, right? Like, this is why you don't have FTP open on your web server if you don't use FTP for anything, right? So,
or just don't use FTP for anything.
Or there's that,
yeah. No, I like the idea. I've got, I don't know if I can sit here. I've got the Smart Things little hub back here, and I've got devices all connected.
That's a version 1 Smart Things. That's going to stop working soon, right?
No, that's actually my V1 version. Actually, I think it was a pre-V1 version. I don't know. Mine died a long time ago, and I had to buy a new one. So this is the newer model. But my point was, like, it uses Z-Wave and Zigbee, and I mean, can connect Wi-Fi as well. But I've got stuff all over my house, but my house is kind of wide, and so like stuff in my garage can't connect very well, right? And so like I've had to get like the extenders and stuff like that. I see this as sort of the same thing. I don't know. Are either of you guys concerned about it? Are you worried about adding access into your house via these devices?
So I have no smart home stuff.
Nothing? Like no Echo or
no, not really. I don't have any of the Echo or Google Home or Smart Things or anything like that.
No.
I just muted Alexa, so she's not listening. She's probably still listening, but she won't respond now.
That's unfortunate. Well, cool. We could probably still order an Uber for you. But no, it's one of those things that I think there's some interesting implications that could be there. But they also did point out that with this service, there's massive rate limiting to the point where you're almost at the speed of the old dial-up connections. Like it'll allow up to 80 or 8 kilobytes per second, and that's it. So it's really rate limited, and they were pointing that out that your average website's about 2 megs of data, so it would take a while just to download a regular website. So they did point that out. There could be implications there that could happen from the fact that this is V1. If there's anything that could actually break it down and allow that. Also, I'd be interested to know if there could potentially, that would still be in the implementation. So, but they did point out some of the other interesting ones, primarily around the privacy concerns about the tile tracker. And the fact that thing is actually now just a GPS tracker, like a GPS bug, if you think about it, because you could actually
with this
and
it doesn't use GPS, but it's basically like that.
Yeah. So
but the thing is, like, that doesn't change with this. It just expands it so it's more accessible.
Yes, and that's going to be the thing is, if I remember correctly, the tile trackers were fairly inexpensive.
They're like $25 each, or 20 to 25.
That's
way
cheaper than the old GPS bugs used to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The value there, because I don't have any of those. I've thought about getting some because my kids lose our remotes all the freaking time. But my father-in-law has, I don't know, like a dozen of those tiles, and he has them on everything. And it's cool. I mean, they work really well. The problem is, like, if you lose something or something's stolen and it's far away, it's a lot more difficult to track it. So
this would
I don't know. Yeah,
supposedly.
I'm a little worried about that EFF article pointed out that this is not just an Amazon thing. It's not just Ring. It's not just the Echoes. This is a protocol that any devices will be able to connect to. And my concern is, you get those cheap knockoff Chinese-made devices as if everything wasn't made in China anyway. But you get those cheap devices that people just rush through development.
Yeah.
Those types of things might present more risk to your home network than.
Well, I think that's my concern is exactly that. It's with, any vulnerability on that mesh that could potentially allow someone to hop from there and pivot in. That's the concern from a,
Yeah, and they pointed out that there's still some things that are not hammered out that we don't have the details on. I would imagine that the partner thing is probably still going to require some sort of certification.
Maybe I could see that.
What the thing about this I don't get is, and maybe this is one of the differences between or organizationally or between Google and Amazon, is that this didn't seem to go through any sort of beta or opt-in type thing at all. It's like, everybody's automatically opted in unless you go and turn this off.
So here's
testing in production.
I'm like, what?
I see both sides to that, right? Like on one hand, I would prefer it to be opt-in, but then you have the situation like Tile. Tile only works if you have the device on your phone or other people have the device on their phone. It's inherently an opt-in thing.
Yeah, but
wait, let me compare it though. Compare it to Apple's what's the new Apple competitor?
Not Pod. Is it? No.
Is it? I started to say Pod 2, but whatever it is, like Apple come up with a Apple version of the Tile, but the difference is every iPhone, iPad, iDevice is automatically enabled, right? It's the same type of system. It's automatically on, and so I mean that's a Tile killer. Right, without Amazon Apple Tag, without Amazon Sidewalk, that Apple product is going to kill Tile. So I see both sides, right? If they had done it as an opt-in thing, nobody would opt in.
But
not enough to make it worth it. What I was
going to say is though, even then, I think that having some period of time where it is opt-in and then they turn it on for everybody, or
let
something
people test it out.
Lines,
yeah, that's true. It's interesting.
That's my issue, is that it's version 1 and they just turned it on for everybody without, and I mean, we don't know how much third-party testing's been done on that.
Right.
So.
We should, I know somebody who can test it for them. They should give us a call.
Yeah, we can do that.
One thing I was thinking about, oh shoot, man, I'm getting old. I had an idea and it was gone. Oh well, let's move on. Oh, that's gonna plague me.
I'm sure it'll come back to you right when you don't.
Right. Yeah, when it's no longer necessary.
When we're done with the podcast.
When that happens.
Exactly. Oh well. So the next article we got there is the Mitre Defend framework, which I'm really excited about. Let me post the article here in the public chat. Have either of you guys had a chance to look at the Defend framework? I think it just came out this week, right?
Yeah, I have not looked closely at the framework itself. I basically understand from the headlines, it's a complement to the Mitre attack framework. And it's kind of surprising. What's that?
It's a companion to it.
Yeah.
You got an attack and defense.
Which is, I'm a little surprised it's taken this long for that to come out, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I love the attack framework. I've dove into it quite a bit. I actually did a webinar on it 2 weeks ago, I think. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really cool idea. And I can totally see, like, there are tools out there where people can say, okay, let me figure out how I'm defending against all of these different techniques. This seems more like, what is OWASP's? Like, they have the OWASP top 10, but then they have the like top 10 defensive controls. You know what I'm talking about, Jason?
Well, they have the proactive controls.
Proactive controls. That's what I'm thinking of. So you've got like, here's the top 10 vulnerabilities to watch out for, and then here's the top 10 defensive things to do. Yeah. I feel like this is sort of like that.
Okay.
But with that said, it's also version 0.9.2-beta-3. So
might have a little ways to go before we can actually use that.
Yeah. I had a client actually last night say, hey, I just saw this thing. Here's what I'm planning on using it for. What do you think? Is this cool? Is this a good idea? And I'm like, that's a great idea. That's exactly how it's intended to be used. But you might want to wait a while. Like, at least wait till
on it yet.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, hopefully it's far enough along that people can start using it, because that's how it's going to get better, right?
Yeah.
You try it and it's like, okay, well, it seems to be missing these things. So what do we do?
Yeah, here's the actual link to it.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job of mapping out all the, maybe not all, but a lot of different types of defense methods. I'm not sure across the top there, they've got harden, detect, isolate, deceive, and evict. I imagine those will change up a little bit, just like attack did as it grew. They kind of restructured some of that, but
some of these seem very specific, like application hardening, exception handler, pointer validation. Is that
that's SEH?
Where are you looking at?
Under harden. Application hardening.
Oh, yeah. So what ended up happening with attack was they did the same kind of thing. They took a bunch of different attack techniques and they started putting them out there. And then over time, people said, well, you know what? These three are really the same type of thing.
Yeah.
So they started coming up with sub techniques. And so you saw attack get to the point where, like, hey, here's an escalation technique. And then underneath that, here's a bunch of sub techniques. And I imagine we'll see the same type of thing, because I think some of these will probably be real similar. And I noticed some of them, like a lot of these have one reference, but then there's some of them that have like,
they have different numbers on them. Like down under deceive, there's a decoy file has 4. That's the number in green.
Yeah. Like process spawn analysis has 17 references. So clearly somebody spent some time diving into that one a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we also had a question here in the chat. Is it known how the ransomware attacks made it into the 2 most recent attacks? What were the methods they used to succeed?
I'm not sure which 2 most recent attacks. I would assume like Colonial Pipeline and
the Mitre.
Yeah, the JBS or JPS, whatever. I don't know. Tulsa has had 2 fairly recent ransomware attacks as well. So
I was watching that on the news. I was like watching them like, we got it.
Yeah.
Like the entire city of Tulsa. It's like awesome.
They actually handled it fairly well. There were some problems, right? It wasn't perfect, but I think the attack started on like Friday or Saturday. They discovered it almost right away and shut down everything. Like they had a backup plan for backup communication methods, and they basically told everybody shut everything down and we'll bring it back up as we.
Yeah. Didn't I hear something about looks like they're actually finding evidence of some information being leaked now that potentially related to that?
Yeah, just
it was that earlier
yesterday or the day before the article came out that not only was the data encrypted, but the attackers obviously exfiltrated some of the data and have now leaked it. I know there was court records and police reports and stuff like that. So
yeah, it was speeding, parking tickets or something like that. Like it was
right. Yeah. I mean, this annoys me. The response was, if you've had a interaction with the police or court records or whatever, you should monitor your credit. like that's the solution, right? Everybody's data has been stolen. You should probably monitor your credit. We'll give you free credit monitoring for a year.
Here's your free 6-month trial of.
Jeez. I wonder, can you add those together? Like every time you get free credit monitoring for a year?
That'd be nice, right? They should have to be appended.
Roll them up, and then that way.
I got about 300
retirement.
years.
You're covered. It costs you nothing at retirement to deal with that. Unfortunately, you're sharing your Social Security benefits with somebody, but.
To David's question there about, do we know how the 2 most recent ones? I'm assuming we're talking about the meat plant and Colonial. What methods they used to see. I don't know the details. I read a little bit into the Colonial one, but with most attacks like that, it takes quite a bit of investigation to find out where it actually started, if they even know for sure. So I don't know.
Yeah, while they're still investigating that, usually anything that you learn is kind of hearsay. It's usually speculation, rumors, or potential leaks and stuff like that. So usually it's hard to figure out what the truth is until the end of it.
My understanding with Colonial, though, was it was the attack didn't impact their ability to actually distribute. It was more the ability to take payment, right? So,
was it?
That's not.
So we're not shipping any more oil because we can't collect.
Right. I had heard that the first attack was email based.
Yeah.
For
phishing.
Colonial, but I don't know. Yeah, phishing. I don't know that for sure. I wouldn't quote me on it.
Yeah, that was
yes.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't really want to throw that out there because it's again not confirmed. It's
right.
It's a really good guess, though. I mean,
it's probably a really good guess, and it was actually kind of interesting. Is that kind of reminded me of the I was talking about that with some people, and it kind of brought that up, and I was like, I remember there was this one blood center that I worked at, and we had to actually create a password reset system that didn't use the emails because of the fact that they decided that everybody that works in the labs, they don't get emails. And that was their decision. They're just like, they really don't need them. And from a security standpoint, it's a massive improvement to the security. If we take every employee that doesn't really truly need email to do their job function, take it away.
That makes sense.
As far as internal company announcements go, that's what the intranet webpage is for.
That reminds me of InfraGard. I'm a member of InfraGard, and your password expires like every 30 days. And I log in hardly ever to the website, but I think I have to log in like every 90 days or 180 days or something like that. So it doesn't
you always log in by doing a password reset.
That's exactly right. Every time I get the notice, you have to log into your account to not be kicked off. I go log in but the thing is, they don't do it via email. You have to call their help desk, and there are people that just they verify your identity and they reset your password that way, which is hilarious, but whatever. All right, let's move on. So I'm going to jump to the EC Council plagiarism thing.
Oh gosh, I was so interested. Like when you threw, so I've heard about this before, but I dug into it last night.
Yeah.
And I found the original ECC Council post in the Wayback Machine. That's the only way to get to it now because they took.
Oh, really? They took it down?
Oh yeah.
Nice. I didn't realize that.
And then compared it with Alyssa's blog post.
Wait. So let's back up just a little bit to give some details to people that don't know. So Alyssa Miller, we actually Kevin and O'Shawn and Kathy and I sat with her at Wild West Hacking Fest last. I don't even know what day today is. I guess it was last Friday. Yeah. We hung out and we're at a table and like right after that was kind of when this all erupted. Basically, she found one of her blog posts posted almost word for word on the EC Council site. And she was just, posted out there on Twitter, WTF, what's going on here? And supposedly that's not the first time. That's happened in the past. But then as she started digging into it, she found several more blogs of theirs that had been, basically straight up taken from other people. So, all right, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say, do you think it's okay if I post the links here?
Yeah, why not?
So, wait, hang on. Should I put hers on first? No, I'll put the...
I posted the attrition word from Jeremiah and and Alyssa's Twitter post there, one of hers.
So there's the web archive. So that's, through the way back.
Oh, that was her blog that they posted.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So this is the version that they had posted. So you can get to it from that link. And I'll say, like, the similarities on there, this is what it feels like. It's not word for word, right?
Yeah, some of it is.
But what parts of it are, especially the introduction, but if you go down a little bit further, it's a little bit less word for word per se.
Yeah.
But as I was reading through it, you know what it reminded me of? It's as if they took her blog post and ran it through Grammarly and then just started accepting all the
changes.
Things. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, here's a different way of saying the same thing.
Yeah. So I don't know how to say this without it sounding xenophobic, but I have seen this type of thing out of India a lot where people are trying to make a name for themselves. And they said, in fact, we had a client that started a new company in India and he was wanting to resell our services. And as we started digging in, everything on his company page was plagiarized from other places. And, we just kind of walked away. But maybe a year ago or so, I got some spam email from somebody saying, hey, we'd like to help share your content, and we have content that we'd like to post, do like a cross thing or whatever. And I started looking at their stuff and searched around, and literally it was the same thing. They had taken blogs from other people, changed a few words here and there, rephrased a few things, and then reposted it.
And it was just an ad-riddled site where they were taking other people's blogs, posting it daily for content. So they had daily content creation for SEO. And, I don't have a problem with you doing that. Just credit my site and remove the ads.
It's like Security Boulevard, right? Like if you search for my name, I'm an author on Security Boulevard. I've never written anything for Security Boulevard, but they take Security Ideas blog posts and what's that called?
Syndication.
Syndication, yeah.
Syndication.
I'm okay.
And it's one thing if you say that. Yeah. But the problem that I had too was the blog post that they had kind of ripped off from me. They didn't credit my site, and it was written in a first-person narrative. So it sounded like this guy did all the research. I'm like, no, you need a credit. I was like, okay, whatever.
But I don't think Security Boulevard even really looks. I think they just have automated.
I think it's automated.
No, it's probably just
did Mick ever publish the cross-site scripting thing?
I don't know if he did. He about doing it though.
So. Teaser out there, we'll get a blog post eventually. We found out that Mick had a blog post about cross-site scripting, and he had actual payloads in the section on his page. And when Security Boulevard sucked it into theirs, if you went and looked at their blog post, it actually executed the cross-site scripting. So whoops is right. All right, the question that I have here's what I. And Jason, I don't know if you read into it far enough to understand. How did this happen? Why is EC Council are they just letting anybody post to their blog, or what's the issue here?
They don't have a really good answer from what I.
They have a non-apology if you're interested.
It seems to me they have a pool of freelance writers. Is the way that it's been described.
I gotcha.
And somebody probably just copy paste it for content.
Yeah, I think that's basically what's happening. It's like this seems like a good one. We'll put it in there, and they also claim that they run it through plagiarism checks.
Industry tools,
yes.
Did Grammarly make enough of a difference?
Yeah. Well, I know some of those industry tools are open, right? So if there are people that are making money out of this by submitting blog posts, they probably run it through the same tools and then tweak enough until it passes before they pass it along.
That's probably what they're doing. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never been a big fan of EC Council. I know they're kind of a low cost way to get into the industry certification wise, other than others.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it, though, the blog probably doesn't generate any revenue for them, does it? Their most of their revenue is going to be the administrative fees and the certification fees and training.
Yeah, I assume it doesn't generate revenue for EC Council. I assumed they probably pay those freelance writers something. Probably not a lot, but right, like if they pay 20, 30, $50 for a blog post and you put out one a week, who knows? I could see that kind of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about
It might be
fresh content, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It might be a bounty type of program where it's per content.
Yeah.
So
keeping content fresh, that is a struggle.
Trust me, I know.
Yes.
You know that. It's.
All right. Did you guys, I added this one late. I don't know if you guys saw this. Have you seen stuff going on today with the Western Digital My Books?
I just read it right before.
So you want to summarize what's going on?
I can try, and then maybe you can fill in any blanks I have in there. But basically, they have this My Book Live storage device, which connects to the internet. Probably for backups or something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think it's so you can access your data from anywhere.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
I think that's the intent, right? Like I've got a backup drive at home, but I can access it if I'm on the road.
So
probably firmware updates.
Yeah.
I didn't get far enough into it to figure out what the flaw is specifically, but they've been compromised en masse. And one of the attacks seems to be a factory reset. Initiate a factory reset on this device, which wipes it. So
I don't think they know what the problem is.
Actually, at the very bottom, there's it looks like somebody had posted that Western Digital MyBook Live, all versions, has a root remote code execution bug via the shellcode meta characters in the /API 1.0 REST language configuration language parameter.
Well, so that, I mean, that's coming from a user.
It can be triggered by anyone that knows the IP address of the affected device.
So but that's coming from a CVE from 2018.
Yeah.
Surely that's not. I mean, maybe you think it's a 3-year-old bug
that hasn't been
somebody it hasn't been patched, or maybe somebody finally scripted.
They may have found another one, or you might be having another case of BrickerBot going around, just being like, you know what, screw these NAS. It's there was a bot for a while there that was going around. And it was affecting embedded devices, IoT stuff that had really low security. It was like, it port forwarded telnet to the internet, and it's a known credential set. It was doing that, and then once it broke into the machine, got a shell on it, they would actually start trying to zero out all the NAND flash and then reboot.
Oh man!
So it wouldn't come back online.
Right.
So I wonder if somebody created one of those for the Western Digital Lives.
Yeah, it could be. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, literally, this just happened like last night and today. So
their recommendation is disconnect it from the internet.
We've been telling people for years that's the best way to secure a machine.
That's what
I mean.
Saying, yeah.
I have a lot of the MyBooks. I've got like the older style MyBook, and somewhere I've got the newer ones. I love the MyBooks; they're great, but there's never been a time where I'm like, you know what, this needs to be connected to the internet.
Well, and that's why when we started this, I was like, I don't know why we connect to the internet, backups or something. Because I'm like,
the only thing I can think of is firmware updates. Like earlier there in the blog, there was a log there where it showed that it was like updating like the Apache PHP stuff like that. It's just like, I'd imagine that it's probably just using a Linux-based system to run everything, and then it's just got a web interface, so it's probably just getting packages and stuff like that through apt.
Here's a hint. If you're going to put a device into consumers' hands, don't have that be where you host things. Right? Yeah. There's lots of cloud solutions out there right now. That's the recommended way of doing that sort of thing. You put it in the cloud.
There's I don't know. I see the point of this. In that article, it says, from the MyBook Live, it connects to the local network. Users can remotely access their files and make configuration changes through the Western Digital cloud infrastructure. Oh, Western Digital stopped supporting the MyBook Live in 2015. So this is a case. People bought a device, and Western Digital thought, oh, this sucks. We're not getting enough. We're not making enough off this. We're going to stop using it or supporting it. So you're probably right, Travis. That was probably a 2018 bug.
That's somebody just not getting updates anymore. It's not getting firmware updates anymore. And that's actually a very common problem. There was a guy, Brian Lunduke. He used to do like a lot of the Linux Sucks talks at the Linux Fest. It was actually they're hilarious if you've never watched them. But he did one on IoT will be the end of us all. And he was pointing out things like that. And it was just like, he's like, this here is a smart refrigerator. He's like, Consumer Reports shows that the average life of a refrigerator is 17 years. He's like, I want you to think about where computers were 17 years ago.
Right.
And he's like, do you think they're going to continue to support that for the entire duration of the life of the refrigerator? Or are you going to be replacing this in 5 years when they decide to go after new shiny? He's like, and it's very hard to keep supporting something like this because, like, so from the supply chain side of things, it's not uncommon for the chip manufacturers to just decommission a chip and go, no, we're done with that. Yeah. And then at that point, now do I have to re-engineer all the boards that are in it to go with this new architecture or the new chips and stuff like that and just keep trying to produce the same old model? Or do we kick up an entire new project since we're basically redesigning the board?
Well, kind of brings up a good point, though. So I'd like to spin off what you're saying there just a little bit.
Sure.
Do you think it's fair to say that it would be the manufacturer's responsibility or the vendor's responsibility that if they sunset a product that is a connected product, that they somehow disable that connectivity before they stop supporting it?
Oh, man.
I think that would spark a lot of anger.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's what happened with Western Digital, right?
3-year-old bug
Yeah, but so there was a similar deal a while back where somebody had a device that allowed them to open their garage door. I can't remember what device it was, but it was an online device, and you could open your garage door and manage it and all that kind of stuff. And there was a vulnerability where people were able to compromise garage doors and all that kind of stuff. And so the organization just said, kill it. We're not using this anymore. And all of a sudden, people all over the country couldn't get in their garage. Like, right, they were dependent on that. They didn't realize it was no longer supported, because how often do you say, let me patch the firmware on my garage door?
Well, yeah, there is that.
You know, and so all of a sudden it goes offline. Yeah.
Now,
every Friday, you're supposed to go to their website and look for updates.
It's funny because this actually ties back to something we said earlier today, which is smart things.
Yeah.
The first iteration of smart things, which I have one in my house. In fact, I still have things connected to it that I need to get off by, I have 5 days. So June 30th, it's going to stop working.
Yeah.
But they've been announcing that now for 6 months, and
right.
and I've gotten emails from it, and it runs through an app. So the app has had, lots of things happening there to tell me.
But that's only like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is it's usually about 5 years is the average lifespan of the development life cycle for most of these things.
Yeah.
And then at that point it goes offline. But the thing is, if it's still a perfectly functional product like the Western Digital was, they'll keep it online. And this also kind of brings up one other interesting point. If I remember correctly, I think the EU actually wanted to try to set up where one of the things that they were going to start requiring for IoT devices over there, they had a few requirements that I think they were planning to set up. If I remember correctly, it was like 3 or so. But they wanted to have it so no default passwords. You'd have to have the little sticker with a random password by default.
Right.
And then I can't remember the second requirement, but the third one was actually really appealing to me, which was on the box, you need to actually put the end of life date for the product.
Nobody's going to look at that.
But the thing is that also causes challenges, because I don't think many developers, product companies, they start these projects with yes, this is the hard date. We're looking to kill this thing.
Right.
No, it just kind of ends up with we can't get the chips for these things anymore, or they're just not performing great, or we're hemorrhaging money on this deal. We didn't think this through. Kill it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny going back to our very beginning conversation when we talked about Amazon Sidewalk and all of those devices. Like, we're going to see the same type of things, right? Like right now I have, call this an OPSEC failure or whatever, but I've got Ring devices on my front door and my back door. I've got the Wise, cameras in the house in a few places. I've got several different things like that in addition to smart things. My thermostats are connected to a website that come back to me. Like, I've got all these different devices. How long are they going to last? Like in 5 years, am I going to be expected to just replace this stuff? Or, if Amazon decides, people start releasing these devices and then 6 years later, they're like, Sidewalk was stupid, or it's been replaced by something else. Are these things just going to stop working at that point? I don't know.
A lot of them might not. I mean, even Zigbee and Z-Wave is, I think both of those are on their way out. They're being replaced by, I forget what it's called now. It starts with an M, I think.
I don't know.
But
it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you were pointing out there, like there are some that were doing pretty good. Like if I recall correctly, like the Nest has been around for quite some time now and it's still going.
Yeah.
But generally a lot of things are designed to be, we're looking to make a cheap consumer device, $20 to $40 price point. After the initial sales, if they don't have some sort of subscription model attached to it, it's really hard to justify keeping the support for it. And then, like with the Western Digital thing, it's okay. It's still a functional product to me, even if it's not getting updates, and most users aren't thinking about the security ramifications of that. It was kind of funny, as that was like something that when I used to do product security that we would kind of have to address too. And it's like, do automatic updates, because if you don't, the users will never go in and manually patch these things.
Right.
And so,
did you guys see? I'm going to call an audible here. The right to repair bill came out last week, I think. I know you haven't seen this article, so I'm just going to throw this out here. a congressman introduced this right to repair bill, basically saying that I think it was primarily targeted at Apple, not directly in the bill, but the idea was a lot of manufacturers are creating these devices and they're saying, hey, this is part of our larger ecosystem, so you can't jailbreak it, you can't root it, you can't take it apart or whatever, or else you break our terms of service. And my understanding is the bill is basically saying, screw you hippies. If a customer buys this product, they can do what they want with it, and I think that kind of goes along with what we're talking about here, because if I have to buy a product and the use of that product depends on the company continuing to support it and maintain it, that limits
it gets weird. It really does. Like, especially with like the legality of stuff, because it's like, okay, let's say the manufacturer quit supporting it and we'd like to keep it going. Okay, well, now I'm gonna write my own open firmware for it. It was our server-side stuff that needs to do that. So there's reverse engineering efforts that would need to go into that, and that kind of gets into IP territory.
Well, and I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the consideration. I know, like, part of the driver for this is some certain tractor and farm equipment vendors that, you don't think about farm equipment, but like they have very advanced computer systems on some of these devices. And they've got systems set up so that you have to get firmware, like you have to pay for maintenance fees from the manufacturer to get the updates and all this kind of stuff.
That reminds me of navigation systems in the car.
It very much is, yeah. And there has sprung up a black market of, you know what, I want to update my tractor, but I don't want to pay for the firmware update from somewhere else. So you can go online and download a torrent of your tractor's firmware, which just blows my mind.
Sure,
this
sounds
is
great.
farmers that are fighting back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that is interesting. And there's another guy on YouTube. He Louis Rossman. He ran a Mac repair shop, and it was funny because he started getting into this right to repair, and he started making it a point to go out to any hearings about this thing where they had like floor open to the public to talk about it for and against it. And he went to plenty of them, and it was funny because there was this one where there was the organizations that were against it. Obviously we want to fight this thing. We don't want people repairing things. You bring it to us. And then there were like him and a bunch of other people that may have just been like, I believe that if you bought the product, it's mine. There's other people that are like, hey, we run local repair shops and we literally cannot buy the parts for this thing.
Right.
They control the supply chain, making them the monopoly for the repair.
Yep.
And there's other things like that. And it was so funny because like everybody would go through these things, and then there were like the politicians were sitting there and like they would point out this like story. Like it's crazy. Like my Xbox broke down, and then it turned into this whole ordeal with having to go to the Microsoft shop or ship it to Microsoft to get it fixed. And I couldn't just go down to the little like iFixit thing to repair this part because they couldn't get the. Then it like everybody kept having stories like that. And there was like another guy. It was like he had family that was in the tree felling business, and they had their machine break down, and it broke down, of course, in the middle of nowhere, so it's hard to tow it out. But they started doing that, and then one of them went. What's funny is that everybody on this. All of us here, the politicians, we all seem to have horror stories about this stuff.
Maybe there's a reason for that, right?
But he's like, that's the thing, is that we all have horror stories about like just weird things with this not being able to just take it to any regular Joe Blow repair shop to get things fixed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys know this, but I drive a 81 Chevy truck, right? Like, if something goes wrong, I can literally open the hood, climb into the engine bay, and fix it or replace it, right? There's no...
In a parking lot. Yeah.
Literally, yeah. In my driveway. I don't have to have anything fancy. That's 40 years old, right? Like, Jason, you've got a Tesla. Like, do you think Tesla's going to be around in 40 years and still supporting your car?
Totally. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like...
Probably not.
It's an interesting commentary on society where we're getting.
Do you
with stuff
think
like
you can fix it in a parking lot if you ever need it to, so you can limp home?
I kind of think of the Tesla as a cell phone that you drive. It's
actually just
2 years, and then
it has more to do with robotics than it does automotive. It's just a robot that carries a human payload.
Pretty much.
There you go. All right, I'm going to throw out a couple of Google articles here. So. The Google's attempt to remove the URL. I know Firefox was talking about this as well. Do either of you guys, do you remember what the situation was there when they talked about wanting to remove it?
So Firefox currently, what they ended up going with is everything, like the domain name itself, the root domain name, will be white, and then the rest of the URL is dark gray. So it's still there. You can
Currently
still
does that?
Yes.
Oh, you're right. I've never noticed that.
But it makes it so it's really easy to spot the actual domain name that you're on.
Yeah.
So like the subdomains are actually still grayed out, but it's just the root domain that shows up.
Okay.
And it makes it really easy. So when you go to a website, you can just be like, okay, you can at a glance tell which domain you're at, and it doesn't get confusing. So it kind of cracks me up, because like this addresses this thing that somebody brought up to me a long time ago when I used to do computer repair. They came into the shop and they literally asked if we could remove all the squigglies and percentage signs and things, because it made it hard for him to tell where he was.
That's hilarious.
So this is for that guy.
Yeah. Well, I think the argument that was made previously is that the average user, my mom, can't determine based on a URL where she's at. And so we need to provide better resources to do that. But their solution for doing that was that, hey, if you have a site that's important, Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever, the browser will just know you're at the right site, right? It'll validate the certificate and it'll show you you're at the right site. That's great. But what if my mom wants to go to the coffee shop's website down the street? Are they going to have to go through some sort of authentication process? And now you've got the browsers that are the arbiters of what's legit and what's not. I don't know. The whole thing just always seemed fraught with failure to me.
Yeah, there was like a period there too where they were trying to hide whether it was HTTP or HTTPS, and I hated that. I was like, no, I'd rather see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I find hard about it, is actually taking off my technology geek hat in order to kind of see that perspective. Because, I mean, if you ask me, what I want to be able to see on the URL, it's like, I want to see everything.
Right.
I want to know exactly what's going on, but I'm also accustomed to being able to interpret that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but we were at the same time that they were doing that, where they were hiding the protocol. They were teaching people to just make sure that the protocol ends with an S.
Yeah.
And then they removed the protocol.
Ends in an S is good. Yeah.
Anyways, the article there, Google basically, I guess they tried this, like with Google Chrome, they actually rolled it out to certain users where the URL bar just completely went away.
Yeah.
And it did not go well. Not only security people were obviously ranting about it, but just average users were like,
average users didn't like it either.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, the web is not that complicated, right? Like, understanding you've got to type in a URL and stuff like that. There is a little bit of knowledge you got to have, but most users can figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Maybe we should just go straight back to IP addresses only.
There we go. Just get rid of DNS.
You have a phone book on your desk where it's like Google.
Look it up.
Yeah, look it up in the phone book.
Yeah. I don't know. I can see getting to the point in the future, especially as we have more non-browser type devices, right? So like, the Echo Show here, or my phone or my car, not necessarily my car, but Jason's car, whatever it may be. I can see where we get to the point where more of the resources we use online are not necessarily browser specific.
Yeah.
And we need to have methods to be able to determine how to get to YouTube, how to get to, whatever. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Similarly, where are we at of time wise? We're getting towards the end of time. The Google was trying to kill third-party cookies. And they also stepped back and said, we're going to hold off on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys read this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's because of the fact that, again, they started running into issues with the EU. Because their replacement for it was going to be Flock, which is federated learning of...
Oh, that's right.
What was the C? I can't remember. But it...
Cookies.
Yeah, cookies. Yeah.
It's a Google cookie, basically. We're going to get rid of what the entire web is built on for advertising and keeping track of stuff like that. And we're going to replace it with something that Google controls.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it was going to be like Google and their affiliated partners were allowed to do it. And the EU was concerned about this being a monopoly for the federated access because it would effectively be controlled by Google. So it is kind of nice because, like, on one hand, they're like, it's kind of nice to get the privacy. On the other hand, they're like, if you're going to steal data and sell it, you got to share with the class.
Yeah.
So they're kind of a contradiction going on there, but
now, I do like the idea of a browser protocol or convention or something that negotiates that with websites, where you would basically maybe plug it into your browser and say, hey, I don't want any third-party cookies, and you just say that right up front.
But you have that already. That's an opt-in thing in your browser.
The assumption.
Nobody uses it.
Yeah, that could be the assumption. I would like to see that as that, and if we really, because they always make the argument that we actually really enjoy this. We enjoy that and getting customized ads. Turn that into an opt-in system, and let's see how far that goes. I don't think it's there, but
that's what I'm saying. If you go look at your browser settings, you can set customizable stuff for each, or at least I think in most browsers you can. You can say like allow these for these sites, and nobody does it because nobody cares enough.
Well, no, but what I meant is something that actually that communicates your preferences to the site ahead of time, so that
do not track
I see what you're saying.
Don't have to go through the pop-ups all the time.
Oh, the do not track header.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's
that
complicated.
Nobody cares about.
It's complicated because if you add the technical options for people like us, it makes it more complicated that people aren't going to use it. And I don't know. I've got a friend that's I don't know what his title is. He's like a privacy engineer for Mozilla, and he and I have a lot of these conversations all the time because I think the folks at Mozilla legitimately want to make things better. They want to protect people. They want to, but some of the ways they do that, similar to Google, is we're going to protect your privacy by making you send us all of your data, right? Like we're protecting you from your ISP and from your company and from, whoever at McDonald's. It's like the DNS over HTTPS, right? Great idea. You send all of your DNS requests to Firefox, to Mozilla, and you're protecting your privacy from other people. And, their response is like, well, but we won't look at it. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a way to verify that.
But right now, you won't look at it because you're making money in other places. What happens in 6 months when you have no money and the, you've got to do something else? Or what if Mozilla gets purchased by somebody else, right? IBM buys Mozilla and they say, I made, grabbed a name, but they buy it and say, okay, we're going to split off this. We're going to take this. We're going to forget about that. What happens then?
Or they get popped.
Or they get compromised. Yeah. So
and it's like all that data's out.
Yeah.
So actually Mozilla was working on something for third-party tracking that was actually kind of neat, if I remember correctly. I think they were going to call it cookie jar. But what it would do is it would allow you to actually receive third-party cookies, but it was put into a jar for that specific website that you were on. Meaning that, like, if Facebook issued you a cookie on a site, it would be for that site only. And then when you went to a third party, you didn't have that cookie anymore. But when you went back to that original site, they could access that cookie. So they can tell what you're doing on a specific site, but each website, you're going to get a new cookie. And it's going to be effectively from the analytics side be viewed as you are a different user each time.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe I don't. I've been accused of not taking privacy seriously, but I actually like it when I'm looking at Amazon on something, I'm searching for something, and then later I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see an ad that's relevant to what I've been looking for, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, wow, that's freaky. How did they know that? But the relevant ad thing, that sits with me. I get it. I like that. I would rather see, if I'm going to see ads, I would rather see relevant ads than stuff that I don't care about at all.
They do get sometimes creepy. I think there was like my favorite one was Target sent me an email that said, we noticed you noticing something great. And I was like, oh, that's a little creepy. Come on, man.
That's awesome. All right. The last one here, we got to wrap it up in time, but I love this. I've been saying this forever. We've talked about EU, the GDPR cookie pop-ups that everybody posts out there. Somebody finally made a browser plugin that just automatically accepts all those.
Yay.
I've been saying somebody needs to do this. I mean, the problem there obviously is
you're accepting all of them.
Well, you're accepting all of them. I mean, we're going to accept them anyway, right? get off my screen. I don't care. Just say yes to whatever. But the issue is you've got a browser plugin that literally has access to everything you look at, and you're just trusting them to do the right thing.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
It does.
But I can actually see a lot of users installing it if it was malware.
Oh yeah.
Because they're just like, oh my god, that's going away now? Awesome.
Like, I don't know why the browser just doesn't do that, right?
Well, yeah, because it
Probably
would violate
compliance.
GDPR. Yeah, compliance.
No. What I mean is, what GDPR should do is, instead of saying every website needs to do this, it should be every browser needs to do this, and say if you're using the internet, there's cookies.
But that's not that's the thing is.
When's the last time you went to a website that didn't use cookies?
I know. You've heard my rant. I've argued that Secure Ideas' pop-up should say, we use cookies like every other freaking website in the world. If you don't like it, go away. You know what I mean? Like,
turn off your browser.
Yeah.
But that's why
anyway.
it should be up to the browser. It's like,
yeah, I think the problem there, because of the verbiage of the GDPR, people have to give that affirmative consent to each use case. You know, It's not I'm okay with this anytime. You have to affirm it each time.
Well, that's why I think it really should be if you want to use the internet, know that this is part of it.
I think we should just kick out Europe from the global community. You know what? Hey, you're going to pass stupid regulations. Sorry, you're no longer a part of the world community. Go off and do your thing.
Now, to be fair, there are parts of GDPR that aren't stupid, but that stupid cookie pop-up is. Like,